Hello and welcome to our brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we'll be focusing on the presidential activities of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past couple of days, and more specifically on Saturday, meeting with a number of top United Nations officials concerning the climate change and the hosting of Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh in the month of November for the COP27, the climate change conference in Egypt, in Africa, for the first time, as Egypt would be the main speaker and the main voice for Africa and the Arab world. We'll be focusing on the presidential activities of President al-Sisi as well on Sunday here in Egypt. But first of all, let's say hello to Mr. or Dr. Engineer Mohamed Sobky, the former chairman of the New and Renewable Energy Authority and the professor of energy planning, to be focusing on the main topic for tonight. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And we will be turning to the main top story for today on Sunday, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi instructed to provide an additional incentive for the prices of wheat to encourage the farmers on supplying the largest amount of crops. The President's directives came during a meeting held to follow up the progress report of a number of national projects in the agriculture and the food security sectors across Egypt. President al-Sisi also ordered to provide the necessary financial resources to establish fishing farms at the highest quality levels to reach the needed production of the fisheries. During the meeting, the head of state was briefed on the means of upgrading the livestock through a number of projects, where he directed to expand the usage of the higher productive breeds to foster the food industry during the upcoming period. Dr. Mohamed Salah, of course, I know that the main topic for tonight would be the climate change, how to be focusing on that for Africa, for Egypt, for the world, as well as we will be having the COP27 here in Egypt in the month of November. But how would you comment on the current situation in the world? And maybe one of the aspects of the crisis is energy around the world, and more specifically in Europe, and how it could be affecting Africa and Egypt. As we did see, the main top story for today is focusing on the security, the food security of Egypt for the upcoming months.
Well, energy is a crucial issue for a number of products, or actually for all type of products, agriculture and other economic activities in the country. Egypt, over the last few years, has gone through very defined steps in strengthening its infrastructure regarding energy in general, specifically in the petroleum and gas sector, piping, as well as strengthening its liquefaction plants, as well as its electricity networks. So over the last few years, we managed as a state to improve and strengthen that infrastructure. That infrastructure would help as a hub point for energy among different continents, actually, Western Asia, Africa, and Europe. That will provide an easy access to countries, especially in Europe, regarding their needs for fuel products as well as natural gas, in addition to electricity through what we refer to as the Mediterranean ring around the Mediterranean, as well as possible other electric interconnections with Europe through Cyprus and Greece, in addition to interconnecting with Libya through Tunisia and then through Italy. So Egypt did manage to have and is still working on strengthening its infrastructure. That infrastructure helped quite a bit in improving the quality and the continuity of supply to our nationals, as well as providing some exports to other nations, and these exports are growing gradually. That relies very much on the potential needs of the other countries and the other nations, as well as our human capabilities in running and managing this infrastructure.
To be focusing on energy, how do you see the vision and the plan that we have had here in Egypt ever since 2014 under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, not just for the foreseeable future, but to be taking caution of what could happen, like the coronavirus pandemic. It happened in the past 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
The conflict in Europe, it is happening now. How do you see the economy, the economic measures that we have taken or undertaken here in Egypt to be focusing specifically on energy for the benefit of the citizen during those hard times?
Well, actually, Egypt did have, in 2015, and did have what we refer to as the energy strategy of Egypt, which was updated in 2017, indicating that this energy, we have 3 main targets: security of supply, quality of supply, and the contribution of renewable energies, and as well as environment-friendly resources of energy. So Egypt went through that and actually is going through that, and we do have a declared target of that target is in year 2035, and it's indicating a mixture of energy resources, primary energy sources, including renewables, with a target of 42% of the overall energy mix in Egypt, in addition to other primary sources from fossil fuels and natural gas. So we're working on that, and we have achieved the time plan targets so far, and we're working on, as time goes on, we are going into that. Of course, what you refer to, clearly having the Conference of Parties 27, the COP27 in
Yes.
November in Egypt, that will give a higher boost to activities in Egypt as well as in Africa, of course. That will,
And the Arab world.
and the Arab world, of course. The reason for that is we are blessed with a number of resources, natural resources, hydro, wind, solar, and so on. So these resources do present an important factor in reducing the emissions, not only in Egypt and the region, but overall globally. So that definitely will bring a number of investments, and I think we need to have plans or a shopping list in addition to what we're doing, and opening the door for additional investments, either regional investments or as well as international investments in that.
Yes, and finally, before turning to the main topic and climate change and the COP27 in Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh in November, as we are facing a problem all over the world regarding food security, not here in Egypt, how do you see, as the former chairman of the new and renewable energy authority here in Egypt, how can renewable energy be the solution for food security in Egypt and all over the world, especially during the times of conflicts?
Well, thank you for bringing that topic on. It's actually, energy is required. It's required for agriculture activities, water pumping, and so on, especially water pumping.
Yes.
And we are working in that direction in Egypt. A number of our farms, especially in the western side of Egypt, where we have a very enthusiastic program for cultivating 1.5 million fadans through different crops and so on. Yeah. And renewable energies will be a real source that would replace fossil fuel resources, and that will increase our share in renewable energy. And we can easily say that in the cost of these products, renewable energy did have a reasonable share. So actually that would help us in promoting our agricultural products, in exporting these products, in addition to having natural fertilizers. That's one aspect of it. In addition also to say that renewable energies did have a part in the cost of these products. So definitely that will help us quite a bit in these possible economical activities.
Yes, Dr. Mohamed, we turn to the first report of the daily debate for tonight, and it focuses on the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. As I mentioned, the presidential activities of President al-Sisi on Saturday, which took place here in Egypt between President al-Sisi and Patricia Espinosa, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention of the Climate Change, which brings us to the main topic for tonight on the daily debate, the COP27, which will be held here in Egypt in the month of November in the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh. All the details are in the upcoming report.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Patricia Espinosa, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, on Saturday. President al-Sisi confirmed to the top UN climate official Egypt's appreciation of the fruitful and growing cooperation with the UN on the issue of climate change and its effects on the world. He also expressed Egypt's aspiration to focus this cooperation and coordination in preparation for the upcoming conference of parties on climate change, COP27, in Sharm el-Sheikh, to build on the results of the COP26 that was held in Glasgow. For her part, Espinosa expressed her hopes that the upcoming summit would be a milestone in the issue of climate change. She also praised the current national efforts to deal with the environment, support the green transition, and confront the phenomenon of climate change, including building green cities, switching to clean means of transportation, the issuance of green bonds, as well as the adoption of the 2015 National Climate Change Strategy. Earlier on Saturday, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, the President-designate of the COP27, and Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad, the ministerial coordinator and envoy of the conference, met with Espinosa. They discussed the African continent's efforts to mitigate the negative effects of climate change and the provision of climate finance.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. Dr. Mohamed Sobky, President al-Sisi, also mentioned that the upcoming summit in Sharm el-Sheikh of the COP27, it will be having dialogues about the climate change, but we also need results or answers to the problem, as we did see in the past edition of the summit in Glasgow. How would you comment on that?
Definitely, that's a real target here, where a lot of the investments can serve in having a lot of projects toward reducing emissions and having positive impact on the climate change. Just to give you a simple figure, 1 kilowatt hour, just 1 kilowatt hour,
Yes.
Coming from renewable energy instead of conventional energy will save us more or less like half a kilogram of CO2 or emission. That's a high number, and that will help Egypt and other African countries when they apply renewable energy projects, that will help in serving the environment globally. Egypt, in that sense, will be able to transfer some of its knowledge to a number of African countries, given that investments are there to push such projects. Definitely, that's looked at as one important target to diversify the renewable energy project as well as energy efficiency in order to be able to have a smooth transition between conventional resources and renewable energy resources. This transition will take time. Simply because of the continuity of supply, reliability, and so on. So having this transition in a safe way, as well as a financially attractive way, will take a number of years. And that will be done if globally all nations, all countries collaborate together in transferring some of the technologies and the know-how of working on these technologies. Definitely that is a real target of the COP27, and we're building on previous conference of parties which were held either in England and Glasgow or previous ones which were held earlier. So we're going, all of us as globally, we're working on this. And for example, this time, I think focusing on Africa will be the real target. Actually, it is the real target in enhancing these projects.
How do you see the will and the determination here in Egypt to be transforming energy used here in the country to renewable energy or green energy, and not just in Egypt, in Africa as well? Is there a real will to be transforming?
Yes, definitely there is a real will. There is actually a very enthusiastic project to have a connection, an electric connection between South Africa and Egypt, to have a renewable energy corridor, well, passing through a number of countries where they lack the supply of electricity. So renewable energies will provide that, and that type of projects will need the cooperation of a number of countries. So regarding the design, the investments, and so on. So that's a very well-defined project. Both the financial and technical feasibilities were proven for that already a couple of years ago, actually, or a number of years ago. So it's time really to start implementing that. These type of projects, joining African countries together through electric interconnection, as well as maybe at a later stage through interconnecting through pipelines for fuel products and natural gas, will strengthen the economical activities between these countries, as well will strengthen their position in many other aspects, as you said, food security and other security issues.
On the other hand, what are the effects of climate change on Egypt in the past years? Because we always listen about climate change, the bad effects of climate change, but what happened on the ground that we can see for ourselves that this happened and it wasn't happening before, maybe 100 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 10 years as well? What changed, of course, during the course of the decade?
Well, climate change, or increasing the global temperature all over the world, is helping rising the sea level. So we might be losing parts of our land. We might be losing eventually our delta. So that's something which really we need to work on and keep these increases in temperature to a limit in order to avoid losing parts of our land and actually using our also resource for food. And that's something which is an impact which we don't want to view or experience in the future. So this is something which Egypt is trying to avoid, among other countries, of course.
Can we trace the climate change when it comes to weather or the intensity of the weather itself taking place during the months of winter or summer, to be specific?
Well, a change in the temperature all over the year, we are experiencing that already, a change in the temperature distribution all over the year, that's already affecting Egypt, and that's not helping a number of our economic activities, and that's because of the climate change.
Yes, on the other hand, the Minister of Petroleum and the Mineral Resources, Engineer Tariq Al-Mulla, stated this week that during the COP27 in Egypt, the country aspires to be the voice of Africa. What does this mean, and how can it happen in November?
Well, Egypt do have an obligation as well as a leading role among African nations. And that's a role which Egypt is responsible on carrying the welfare of the remaining countries in Egypt, in Africa. Maybe aside with South Africa, both Egypt and South Africa would be speaking quite aggressively on having activities which will reduce the climate change impact on African nations. That's quite an important. Why Egypt is having this leading role and obligation? Because its position, its geographical position, as I mentioned earlier, among 3 continents, so that's a strategic position. Egypt also have a huge capacity on resources, natural resources, prime energy resources, fuel products, natural gas, as well as wind and solar, in addition to hydro. So these resources do represent a critical point in having the responsibility and obligation on Egypt, as well as the human power which we have, especially the qualified human power in the energy sector, would provide an excellent expertise for other African nations. Actually, as a matter of fact, Egypt now is providing services in the energy sector to a number of other African nations, providing some potential projects, demo type projects, as well as implementing these projects to enhance the energy security in other African nations.
Yes, the statement made by the Minister of Petroleum was made during his participation in the Africa Energy and Economy Forum in Houston of the USA. What is the importance of having Egypt among 11 other African countries gathered in the United States, in another continent altogether, to be speaking about the possibility of having more investments and better investments in the fields of energy as well?
Well, investments or investors are attracted to places where resources are available, where also stability, economical stability, political stability is there, which Egypt is having, and that when speaking to a number of countries in that conference in Houston, definitely will attract potential joint venture projects and so on. And just to give you an example, the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources have signed over the last year over 80 exploration projects these companies and investors who came to do that, they came to a country where resources are studies showing the possible availability of these resources, as well as the stable economical conditions in the country to ensure their investments for a long time. So you have legislation, you have stability in financial feasibilities, as well as stability from a political point of view.
And what is the impact of climate change on Africa? Because we always listen that Africa is the worst affected continent by climate change. On the other hand, it is the least emitter of carbon dioxide or the harmful gases in general.
Yes, well, Africa is the least contributor as well, but there is always an argument that we in Africa helped that in buying these result of activities, industrial activities primarily, we did buy these products. So these products in developed industrial countries, Africa was a market for them. So this is where the joint responsibility appears or exists.
Lies, yes.
So yes, exactly. And definitely Africa, as other countries, will be negatively affected because of the climate change, because the impact of the climate change is a global impact rather than a regional impact or a nation impact. So the worst thing is losing a lot of the land, and with that losing a lot of primarily potential areas for agriculture products, as well as the loss of potential reduction of areas, living areas, and so on. That's something which we don't want that to happen to African countries, especially the countries which are do have seashores or ocean shores and so on.
Yes, the Minister of Petroleum also stated that renewable energy is the future, not just for green energy or fighting climate change, but it's also for the opportunities of investment, opportunities for enhancing the economy, strengthening the economy in Egypt and in Africa. How can renewable energy be a source of income for the future?
Well, if I might add to what is said, actually there is two things which go hand by hand. The utilization of energy in an efficient way, so shortly energy efficiency or energy conservation, in addition to relying on renewable energies. Energy conservation would help in reducing our current use of energy without affecting any of the economical activities, without affecting any comfort to end users or productivity of industries. In addition, so you're in one way helping to reduce the need for energy, and in addition providing this energy from an alternative source which is not polluting. Fossil fuels have been used for a large number of years, starting from coal to other liquid fuels. Having using these type of primary energy did affect the environment negatively, but they were at the time, and they are still, from a cost point of view, they are competitive. But now, around the world, renewable energies are becoming economically competitive with conventional resources. Maybe storing this energy or having this energy, renewable energies, on a continuous basis is still a challenge, but having this renewable energy in different parts on a nationwide or a number of countries that will help reduce this intermittency impacts of these renewable energy. So we are in this transition phase. We are in this.
Yes, the energy efficiency, how do you see the state of such a target here in the country?
Well, Egypt did have some studies in 2006, 2007, indicating there is a potential of almost reducing 20% of our energy use without affecting our comfort or productivity. There is a potential for this energy conservation of 20% of the our use of energy in 2006, 2007. It's expected that this 20% percentage would have an equivalent of 8 to 9% in the next couple of years. So in 2023 or 2024.
And you see this happening? It could be happening.
It could be happening, especially that one of the main motives to change our behavior of using energy on industrial activities or even different economical activities, including our residential activity, is the price or the tariffs for energy. And Egypt has gone through a number of, I would say, positive steps in liberalizing the cost of energy.
But did the behavior change?
Yes, it did. It did. And actually there is, this behavior resulted in reducing some of our energy consumption levels without changing the level of productivity.
Is it because we know that it's getting more expensive by the year, or we know that is more valuable to be protecting by the future, for the future?
Well, actually, it's both, but it's your statement of getting more expensive, that's actually how the end user see it. The end user sees it that he's paying more of his budget towards the need of energy, so he will try to be rational.
But we are getting a better product than we used to have.
Well, we're getting a better product, and actually...
And more sustainable.
Yes, and actually also that helped some of the industry, some of our products which we are using, for example, at our homes now. A simple example is the lighting bulbs. We moved from inefficient type of bulbs to a real efficient type of bulbs. With an energy consumption difference, the reduction in energy consumption is about 80%. We went from a 100-watt lamp to a 9 or 10 or 11-watt lamp with an energy saving over the 80%. That also happened in a number of other products, white goods as referred to refrigerators, washing machines, and so on, where you can find on them now stickers or labels indicating their level of use of energy. It's like A, B, C, D, and so on. So end users will go and start to buy these more efficient products because they will have an impact on their energy use and, of course, reducing their energy bill. The same happened in industrial activities where there is more focus on the process of producing any goods using efficient motors. Motors represent about 70% of the energy use in all over the different industries. So we use this efficient motors in a better way. So that created also an industry in the country to work on producing efficient motors, working on or producing efficient lamps. So these are additional economical activities were generated in the area of energy conservation towards a better use of energy. Of course, in addition to our behavior, either as...
which is the most important.
Well, definitely, yes.
Yes, Dr. Mohamed, we'll be heading to the second report of the daily debate for tonight. It is about the participation of Egypt and, of course, the participation of the Minister of Petroleum and the Mineral Resources, Engineer Tariq Al-Mulla, in the Africa Energy and the Economy Forum in Houston of the USA, alongside 11 other African counterparts at the conference, to be speaking about the opportunities of renewable energy for the future. So let's see more details in the upcoming report.
Minister of Petroleum Tariq Al-Mulla said that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi asserted Egypt's commitment to attaching paramount importance and priority to the African continent's vision towards a just energy transition during the 2022 COP27 summit that Egypt will host in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. The minister stressed the importance of providing financing to the African countries to help them address climate change. Al-Mulla was speaking during his participation in the Africa Economy and Energy Forum held as part of the Kira Week Energy Conference currently in session in Houston, the United States. The forum was held with the participation of petroleum and energy ministers from 11 African countries, along with officials from the U.S. Department of Energy and heads of several international oil and energy companies operating in Africa, in addition to officials from a number of international and African funding institutions. The participants welcomed President al-Sisi's remarks about supporting and giving priority to the African continent during COP27. The attendees reviewed the challenges facing the African continent in the field of energy transition. Al-Mulla stressed the importance of coordination among all parties as regards the funding to provide the continent's countries through its energy transition phase, as per the outcome of the previous climate summit.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. Dr. Mohamed Salah Sobky, we're speaking about the energy efficiency, but how about the reliance on renewable energy in the future? How do you see the state of going through this transition, not just in Egypt, but in the world? In your opinion, what is the most developed country in this field to be relying on renewable energy or transforming to it?
Well, this is a challenging question, as a matter of fact, because the different nations faces different challenges when having this energy transition. As Engineer Mullah said, and we heard that in the report a few seconds ago, that just a just transition is important. So we need to move from fossil fuels to renewable energies in a fair way. This fair way would mean that we are not able as African countries to jump in one step toward renewable energies, and that's happening.
No one can.
No one can. And actually other countries did do that in a gradual way.
Yes.
But we also need to move to that where there is financial feasibility for this transition. Financial and economical financial transition on a project level, and economical transition on a nation level. So to do that, to achieve that, we need the collaboration of other countries who are able to help in that. And actually Egypt is one of the countries which did collaborate with a number of international entities over the last 20 years when renewable energies were not economically competitive. So we built up knowledge and we built up know-how in how to deal with these resources. Now the current stage and the current status is these renewable energies are more or less in a competitive phase with fossil fuels. So to help us bridge that gap or overcome that competitiveness part, we'll need the collaboration of other nations who are able to invest. And they will not invest for free. They will benefit in helping to reduce the climate change impact on other countries, and they will help also in having a share of these renewable energies into their nations. There is plans, a number of plans of exporting renewable energies to European countries, especially. That's a plan where the feasibility of it is proven, and that will also reduce the dependency of these countries on fossil fuels, liquid fuels, and natural gas will help in diversifying their resources. Maybe also we can debate whenever we are exporting any product, especially to Europe, that we can debate that there is renewable energies used to produce that product, so we can sell this product with evaluating the renewable energy content of it in it without even having physical interconnections. And that might require some negotiation regarding the energy department in the European Union and their current legislation, which state that they only will count for or pay for renewable energy if it's coming from physical interconnection. So again, that might present an additional, or will present an additional economical value. And it's important to say these projects or this transition will not succeed or will succeed easier in an expedited way if collaboration between the different nations would have investors who are willing to invest in African countries in general.
We have an ambitious plan here in Egypt to be increasing the amount of green projects by 2025 to be reaching 50% and by 2030 to be reaching 100%. How do you see the importance of having such a plan, and whether it is possible or not to be reaching this target by 2025 and then by 2030?
Well, having an ambitious plan is excellent, and that will push us to work or stimulate us to work on satisfying these plans. And again, we have enough legislation in the country which would help us in achieving that. Green projects are not impossible, they are possible, and having this ambitious plan will motivate us as end users, as government and so on, to work actively and aggressively in achieving these projects. So it's achievable if we are all convinced with the advantage of that. And the advantage of that is will have is addressing the welfare of the whole nation. It's addressing our welfare from having a cleaner environment, so with less health problems, as well as a more diversified economical activities in the country, which will help creating a number of jobs, and that's something which we definitely need in Egypt.
On the other hand, the renewable energy sources, they represent about 20% of the mix of energy that we have here in the country, and we aspire to be getting to the point of 42% of this representation. Can this be happening?
Well, actually, there is a more ambitious target or a challenging target, which there is an update of the energy strategy in Egypt, which is being looked at now, and that 42% might jump to the neighborhood of 60%. But again, this is only possible if we all work together on this. And let me emphasize also that we do have an important umbrella for all of this. The Egyptian constitution, the current Egyptian constitution, has stated clearly in Article 32 of that constitution that the state is committed to the optimal use of renewable resources, optimal use of renewable resources from the generation point of view,
yes,
from the end user point of view, as well as from a research and development point of view. So this umbrella did provide a very strong legislative support for any possible activities in this country. It's an ambitious, again, I emphasize, it's an ambitious target, but we need all to work on it.
Yes, also Egypt has offered or issued the offering of green bonds by worth of $750 billion. What is the definition of a green bond to be starting with?
Well, it's bonds or a financing mechanism to support projects in the area of green resources, green energy, renewable energy. So that fund will be utilized, or these funds are utilized to achieve economical activities which are environment friendly.
Worth 750 million American dollars. That's a big amount.
Well, it's a big amount, maybe as a number when we say it, but again, that number is hardly sufficient to
everything, but
to everything.
It is a step.
But it definitely is a step, and that's one of the activities which the state is translating the commitment of the state in having a better environment for investors in the country. So it's an attractive step to achieve that.
Yes, Dr. Engineer Mohamed Salah Sobky, the Professor of Energy Planning and the former Chairman of the New and Renewable Energy Authority. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to be with you.
The pleasure is all mine. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.